I don't have any specific prop usage plan, but of course have something to sit on and get cozy. Um, I I'm a really big Nick Cave fan. Um, like really big. And his writing's sometimes kind of weird, like his books, but he's a very thoughtful sort of person. And so a friend of mine who's also a Nick Cave fan said that I had to subscribe to his newsletter because he takes fan questions and then like just speaks about his thoughts on them. And this week I got one that was pretty interesting. Somebody asked, "Is shitty art worth making?" And he said, "Well, all art is imperfect, like the world itself. And to some extent, value judgments on art are largely subjective and besides the point. Creating art is about growing the world and increasing its reach, and it has more to do with the act of creation itself than what is actually made. Anything that animates us creatively in a positive way, be it the grand design of a great architectural wonder or the big bang of a child's drawing, it's a reenactment of the original creation story. And whether we realize it or not, making art is a religious encounter, as it is our attempts to grow beyond ourselves that energize the soul of the world, of the universe." I love that line, like our attempts to grow beyond ourselves. Like, can I do something else with this time and this energy? And movement is very much artistic, even for those of us who might not like think of ourselves as being like dancers or artists. But like the movement of the human body can be like, there's an aesthetic appreciation to it. And sometimes we have like that ego response to the aesthetic, like, oh, this pose doesn't look exactly like I think it should look. Or like it doesn't, isn't as beautiful as it is on other bodies. And then when we really get deeper into our practice and we kind of set that ego stuff aside, it's wow, the experience of being in this shape and in this moment is incredibly beautiful all on its own and is very worth doing, I hope. Even like really simple things like we do like neck stretches and things like that. Like it's not necessarily like a wildly grand photogenic portion of the practice, but it's all relative and it's all relevant. We'll be weird artists in the vein of Nick Cave today. We'll get in some really good deep hip work, and we'll start with face brushing. Index finger and your thumb together, brushing outwards on the forehead, and then on the cheekbones. Tracing the jawline down the side of the face, and tracing the laugh lines down the corners of the mouth. And then massaging those spaces behind the ears where there's that soft spot and the bony spot. Releasing a little bit more of the tension that might be back there by lifting up from those 2 points, those little bony spots. Feel yourself lifting up perhaps a little bit more as you breathe in, and stay lifted as you exhale. Drop your hands down into your lap. As you take these next couple of breaths, settling into your body, being inquisitive about how this body is feeling today. Consider the creative efforts of your movement, the creative efforts of your mindfulness practice. Noticing the wide range of benefits that come from yoga, even like the worst class that you ever do ends in Shavasana and you come out of it feeling pretty good, right? So we know that it's worth being here. Next time you take a big breath in through your nose, let the exhale out through your mouth. Again, breathe in, big loud sigh. Releasing 3 ohms. If you are feeling a little bit tender in your seat and your knees, if you need to change the way that you're sitting at all, even just to extend the legs out or uncross them, go ahead and make that shift. And then on your next breath in, once you get there, just go ahead and reach those arms up. And then you're going to take this into a twist over towards the right. Just bring your hands somewhere that supports you. So maybe your hand to your opposite knee, and then if you're over towards the right, this right hand is in nice and close. Feel that space behind your ears, lift up, breathe in. And then exhale, soften your belly. Come back to the center as you take your next inhale, lift those arms up. And as you exhale, twisting over towards the left. Feel yourself get taller as you breathe in. Soften into the twist as you breathe out. And inhale, lift the arms back up, come back to center. Exhale, twisting to the right. Stay there for a breath in and a breath out. Come back to the center, lift the arms up. Exhale, twisting over towards your left. Stay there for a full round of breath. And lifting your arms back up. One more time, over towards the right. Get taller as you breathe in. Soften as you breathe out. On your inhale, coming back to the center. And then last twist, over towards the left. Breathing in and breathing out. Release your twist. And if you crossed your legs the other way and it feels weird, or you want to adjust your legs at all, we just want to make sure that we have feet somewhat towards each other. You could come into this pose if it feels a little bit better to you. We're just going to walk ourselves over the right leg. And don't worry about having a long spine here. Go ahead and soften your belly back, kind of relaxing your lower back a little bit more. And you might actually feel this a little bit more in your left hip than your right hip. Like that outer joint space. Take another breath in. Big breath out. Walk yourself over towards the left side. And you can let that belly soften in. Go ahead and allow yourself to round. Giving some softness into that lower back. One more round of breath. Soften with your exhale. And start to walk yourself back in. And if you are seated up on anything, go ahead and move that out of your way. We're going to take the knees over towards the right side and then slide your left leg back as much as you can. You're going to come forward over the right shin into Swan Pose. So I am sitting over on this hip. This leg position kind of arbitrary. Not worrying too much about it. Again, letting your belly soften, so maybe you can lower your heart a little bit closer towards your shin. So we're trying to get at the lower leg with our trajectory here. Letting the sensations change over time, where it might become more intense and you might want to back off, or you might have a little bit more space to lean into it. Give yourself 3 more breaths. And then start to walk yourself back up. And you're going to tuck this back leg up again without bringing the foot too close to your hip. You want to have some space so we have more of this squared corner position. And then walk your hands back. You're going to leave your left knee down, but start to lift your hip up. And you can stay here. You could come to one forearm. You could come to both forearms. You could decide that one of those is a bad idea and go back up. And you don't really need to come down that far if you're actively lifting this hip up. And then for a little bonus stretch to your quadricep, you can put your fingertip right by your left hip bone and then see if you can bring that hip bone just a tiny bit closer towards your belly. And it's like the tiniest little shift and you might feel more quad stretch. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then take your left hand over so that you can walk both hands back up and towards the center. And then switch your legs over to the other side. And we'll take Swan Pose, sliding the right leg back, and then bringing the body forward over a lap shin. No, no. Quite. Good girl. As you start to settle, maybe finding a little bit more space, maybe going a little bit deeper, maybe just working on your breath exactly as you are. Two more breaths. And start to walk your hands up. We're going to slide this back leg up without bringing the foot near the hip. And we'll start to take your torso up and back. Leave your knee down. Let the hip float upwards and press forwards. You can come down onto one or both forearms if you like. And if you want to put your fingertip on your hip bone just so that you can feel that space, very gently start. It's almost as if you're drawing it up to the belly button. And obviously your bone doesn't really move any closer to your belly button, but that kind of intention can really open up that quadricep right in the front of the thigh. Big breath in. Big breath out. Take your right hand, cross it over, so you walk both of your hands out. And bring the soles of your feet together. Go ahead and wiggle out whatever you need to wiggle out and come forward, softening over those legs. Thinking more about that lower back relaxing than anything else. Really just trying to loosen. One more breath. Start to lift yourself up. You're just going to do that again, but this time separate your feet. So you can even like try to hold them there, like hold your hands onto your feet or onto your ankles, and keeping that space. And then draw your body forward. Just noticing how it's kind of different. Might be a little bit deeper into the hips. Maybe you do go deeper, maybe you don't. We often do this with like a block in between our feet, but it's not worth it to fudge with that just for this one moment today. One more exhale. Start to take yourself up. You're going to go ahead and bring those legs in together and then start to come down onto your back. And when you get there, come into happy baby. So pretty much just where we were. You're going to take the feet out, knees are wider. You can hold the feet or your ankles, whatever is easily accessible to you. And then just like when we were folding forward, can you relax your lower back here? Can you allow a little of that unwinding that happens over time, that happens with your breath? Big breath in, big breath out. And release your legs down. I'm going to place the right ankle on the left knee, flex your foot, and you can stay here or pull those legs up. If you can do it without your hands, try it without your hands. This is going to be some of our core work today. If you need to grab the fingertips and just give a little guidance, please do that. If you need to take breaks, please do that. But I want you to keep your hips on the ground and then feel your abdominals wrapping inwards like they're being laced into your belly button. And try to relax your jaw muscles and your collarbones so the fire is really down there in that lacing in your belly and in your hips. One more exhale. And then you're going to release your left foot down. I'm going to take that right leg a little bit closer to you. We're going to either, this little piggy went to market on the toes, or interlace your fingers in between the toes. I find it's a little bit better on like the ankle and any sort of potential knee tension to really draw that thigh over to the side. So I can even roll over onto the right hip a little bit more here. So not worrying so much about having the pelvis completely stable, especially if I'm feeling any tenderness in the knee or in the ankle joint. After moving those bones around for a bit, go ahead and release your fingers, and you're going to hold out of this ankle. Now you're going to put your left hand on your left hip so that your hips have this guided intention to stay a little bit more balanced. And you're going to pull that right knee down outside of your shoulder, or think about it going down outside of your shoulder. Just take one more exhale like that. And you're going to release that leg. And go ahead and slide both legs out long so that we're releasing the fronts of the hips. Oh, excuse me. And maybe reach those arms back behind you, feeling some space in the front side of the body, lengthen the spine. One more big breath in. And relax when you exhale. Start to slide those feet back up, so knees are bent, feet on the floor. And then we'll start left ankle on the right knee. And you can stay here and you can take many breaks, or try to lift your legs up towards you without using your hands, and you can totally just use your hands lightly and focus more on the muscles that are working along with your hands. But try not to have your belly like coming up towards your legs. You want to wrap those muscles in towards your center. Hopefully without wrapping up the muscles in your throat and your chest as well, which is a really, really hard conversation to have with all of those body parts. One more exhale. And then release your right foot down. You're going to take the left leg up, hold it with the left hand, and then the right hand is going to be used to work around the toes. So maybe the fingertips go in between them, or you wiggle around the toes, and you can roll over towards the left hip a little bit to keep any possible tension out of the knee or the ankle. If that seems like it's going to be helpful to you, can give that a little try. Move those toe bones around, the finger bones around. Take one more breath in, soften when you exhale. Release your Fingers, you're gonna hold onto this left ankle or maybe more by the shin. You're gonna put your right hand at your right hip to try to get those hips a little bit more even. It won't be perfect, that's fine. I'm gonna draw your knee towards the outside of your shoulder. One more breath out. Now release that foot. Go ahead and set it down. And once more, extend those legs out, reaching your arms over your head. One more breath in. And then breathing out, softening the body. And start to slide those feet in close to you again. This time you're going to take your left thigh and cross it over your right thigh. And you'll push down in your right foot to kind of hop your hips over the left a little bit. So just a little scooch. Then the arms will come open into a cactus shape. Drop your knees over towards the right until your foot catches. And then you're going to draw your belly back away from those legs, gently softening it back. And you'll push into your right arm so that the left shoulder rolls back away from your legs and your arm. Hi, thank you. Take one more breath in. Soften that belly as you breathe out. Then you're going to unwind your legs, take them back to the center. Make it very hard to talk. And you're going to take your right leg over your left leg. And from here, you'll have to hop again your hips over towards that right side. So I'm going to give a little bit more space over towards the right side. That way, when you get into this twist, now your spine will be in a line as you drop your legs over towards the left. And you want to catch with the foot. That way, it's not too far. You can even back off a little bit if that seems better. And then the belly falls back away from these legs. And as you push into the back of your left arm, the right arm starts to fall back away from those legs. Hi. One more full round of breath. And then start to unwind your legs back to the center. And then you're going to lift yourself up to a seat so you can roll over to one side or give yourself one rock up. And from here, we're going to come into a lizard pose. So you're going to take your, dig yourself up onto your hands and knees, and please prop up your knees if you need to. We'll just do one knee pose on each side. You're going to take your right foot up outside of your right hand and then start to wiggle that foot a little bit further forward. You can be on your fingertips. And you're going to reach your heart forward. Ever so slightly, it lifts up and forward. And rest your right hip back. We're going to be here for a couple more breaths. One more breath out. Start to pull yourself back so you can take the right leg back and then the left foot will come forward. You can give it any manual adjustment you need to. When you get it up to that like table pose space, you're going to try to bring that foot a little bit further forward. And then it's the heart that starts to lift up and forward. As you lift your heart up and forward, try to make sure that that left hip isn't reaching up and forward. You want to settle it back gently. Big inhale. Big exhale. Start to pull yourself back, pull this knee back. And then coming down to lay all the way on your belly, make a pillow for your head with your hands, rest in such a way that is soft and easy on your body. Just feel your breath, feel the weight of your body into the floor. One more exhale. And then start to take your hands back behind you, interlacing your fingers. Reach those knuckles back towards your feet as you send your heart forward. Take a big breath in and then relax those shoulders open just a little bit more. One more breath in. And exhale, lower down. You can rest a cheek or a chin, unwind your arms. I didn't make any suggestion about lifting the legs before. You might have left them down. You might have lifted them up. That's fine. But this time, do see if you can lift your legs as well as your arms, reaching the toes and the fingertips back, and then sending that heart forward. One more breath in. Feel your chest lifting up. Exhale, relax your shoulders. And then lower down. Bring the hands in underneath your shoulders. We're going to push ourselves back up to our knees. Spread out the fingers, so you're pushing into the finger pads. Brief visit into downward facing dog, coming up, walking into the heels to stretch the calves a little bit. Strong arms pushing all the way down beneath the floor. That's how strong we're pushing downwards. One more exhale. And then bringing yourself up to standing. So go ahead and walk those hands forward, the hands back, the feet forward, and then lifting yourself up. Come to standing. So from here, we're going to take a little side bend. Go ahead and take your right leg back behind your left, and then have this little cross in your legs. And you want to try to push into the back foot to get a little bit more action on the outside of the hip. Reach up and hold onto your right leg, and then bump your hips over towards the right side. You can get a little bit taller. Push into that back foot. Big breath in. Breathing out. Coming up, switching the cross of your legs, just rearranging your feet however it makes sense to you, holding onto your left wrist and then reaching up and over as your hips bump over towards the left and you push into the left foot, which is your back foot. Big breath in. Big breath out. Coming up, release your arms. We're going to unwind the legs. After having found all of this length now, hopefully through the spine and the sides of the hips, we're going to use that and to come into tree pose. So if you wanted to be nearer to something, that's great. You might leave your toes on the floor. If you can bring them up to the calf, also wonderful. You're going to lift the fronts of the hips here, lengthen that knee down so we have a little bit more of this lower belly engagement, and reach your arms up. Notice as you reached your arms up, if all of a sudden you did this like sway back thing, like the tailbone starts to lift up back there, can you relax the tailbone down, lifting up the front of the hips, and then reach your skeleton up higher. One more breath in. And then release and take things down, a little wiggle. And then coming into tree pose on the other side. Trying to avoid any of this sitting into the hip, any of the shortening in the spine that tends to come with these places where we're like, I don't know, I'm awfully far from the ground. Let me settle myself in. Instead of settling yourself in, can you grow yourself up? That tailbone isn't reaching behind you. It's relaxing downwards. Knee is opening out. Skeleton, the bones are lifting up. One more breath in. And then relaxing down, foot down, give a little wiggle. And we're going to come into warrior one. So go ahead and turn yourself over to the right side. I'm going to do the other leg. Is that right? Yes. Okay. I'm going to do it this way. So I want to show something in a moment. So your right foot forward and your left leg back. And then you're going to reach your arms up. Your back foot, see if you can scooch it forward maybe a little bit more than you might usually, just because I really want you to open up the front of the hip as much as you can here. And maybe you get a little bit more lift into your heart, growing the spine up taller. Big breath in. Exhale, release the arms down. We're going to straighten the front leg, take your hands to your hips, and then lean your heart forward over your toes. See if you can push down in that front foot more and relax the right hip back. You still have all of this space on the sides of your waist, your side pants. Exhale. Draw the belly and lift up. We're going to bend back into the front knee. This time you can keep your hands at your hips or interlace your fingers behind your back, opening your chest and coming forward into humble warrior. And as you do so, don't let this hip drop out. You want to rest it back towards the back foot. Relax the head on the spine. That doesn't mean you have to drop your head, but can you relax the muscles that might be tense with your head softening down like this? One more breath out. Draw your belly in, release your hands. We're going to come all the way up. And then one more pose like this. We're going to open up into triangle pose. And we've just done a lot of work around in this hip to hopefully have some space here. And then we're going to start to take this a little bit more into the upper body. So shift your hips over towards the left. Bring that right hand down wherever it is most comfortable for you to do. And then your left hand is going to come into the lower back. Just bring the back of the hand into your spine. And then you're going to try to open your collarbone. And then you'll notice if your bum is trying to reach back into your fingertips, you want to instead reach that bum towards the back foot. If you've got really long arms, you might touch your fingertips to your thigh, in which case you again have that opportunity to open your collarbone more. Big breath in. Big breath out, and then draw your belly and lift yourself all the way up. Release that arm. And then we're going to come into warrior one on the other side. So go ahead and bring your feet forward and step the other leg back. So not standing on that totally flush line. Give yourself some space. Maybe turn the back toes up just a little bit more than you might usually. Even if it's a little uncomfortable, if it hurts, don't hurt, but if it's a little uncomfortable just this once, just to try to get that hip lifted a little bit more. And then from then on, you can have the normal foot. One more big breath in. And exhale, release your hands and straighten that front leg, keeping the hands guiding the hips. We're going to send the heart forward and feel that left hip pulling back gently. Might go forward a lot, might not. One more breath out. Drawing your belly in, come back up. We're going to bend into the front knee, finding that good warrior one alignment, hands behind the back, lift the heart, and then send that lifted heart forward on the inside of your thigh without letting the hip move around. And then notice if there's any tension in your head and neck, what can you do to let it go? What can you do to find some softness, some stableness there? One more exhale. Draw your belly in, lift yourself up, release your hands. And then we're going to shift into triangle pose. So we have that little shift in the feet. So that back toe coming upwards. We're going to shift the hips over, slide your left hand down, and then your right hand's going to come into the small of your back as you open that top shoulder and feel your fingertips guiding your tailbone towards the back foot. Maybe your hand wraps around more. It doesn't need to. It's just an option. Chest is open. Ears lift off the shoulders. One more breath out. Drawing the belly in, coming on up. This time we're going to turn all 10 toes to face up towards whichever side of the mat you're at here. See if you can turn your toes in just a tiny bit more. And it's like a centimeter. or something. It's really not a lot. It's going to get a little bit more of that outer shin line. Take a big breath in. And then come forward into a fold. You might hold on to those shins, or you might take your hands down lower. Try to relax your head. If you're able to, root down into the pinky toe edges of your feet a bit more. If it's too intense, go ahead and open your toes up a little bit and don't push it. Big breath in. Big breath out. Drawing your belly in. Start to take yourself on up. Bring the legs in closer towards each other. And then bring yourself up towards the front of your mat space. It's all crooked. And bring your toes together, your big toes together. So your feet are in exactly touching. And from here, you can feel your inner thighs moving together. You want to move them together and slightly forward. We're going to reach the arms up. Bring a little bit more front body opening, not hinging back, lifting up and forward. Squeezing those inner thighs in and forward, finding your breath. One more breath in. And exhale, release your arms, wiggle your feet a little bit further apart, and continue all the way down into a fold where you are bending in your knees as much as you need to, or holding onto your shins. Try to relax your head. Big inhale. Exhale. And then take your hands down. You're going to step back into downward facing dog again. Seeing if it feels any different, relaxing your heels back, feeling your tailbone lift up, strong in those arms, relaxed in the head. And then child's pose, and instead of child's pose, either puppy dog pose or laying flat on your belly, whichever seems like a better choice for your body and your needs. One more exhale. And then lift your head. We're going to come up into a table pose, and we're going to thread the needle. It is, for some of us, possible and pleasant to thread the needle back from child's pose to kind of let your hips rest back a little bit more. That might not be you. So you can rest your hips back, or from table pose, leaning your hips above your knees, come to threading the needle right here. So you've got different options depending on how your body feels. And then you're going to want to lift up onto your fingertips and turn your elbow up here. And then can you reach your heart back behind you, away from that elbow? One more exhale. And you're going to relax the arm. I'm going to come back to table pose, unwinding ourselves, and then sliding through with the other arm, twisting the other way. You can come up onto fingertips here, feeling your heart pull back away from that elbow, doing it with your hips above your knees or your hips pulled back, and you get to choose and kind of experiment. We usually do it this way. There are other variations as always. Big breath in, big breath out, and then lifting yourself back up, hips above knees, unwind the arms back to table pose, take a little wiggle, and then start to bring yourself down onto a seat. You get into a seat, extend your legs, widen them a bit. You can bend your knees if you need to, or just don't worry about how far you come forward. I'm just going to come into a really soft fold, not about getting down in between the legs, more so about trying to breathe some space and some softness into the lower back. The hammy stretch is just bonus. Breath out. Start to walk yourself back up. I'm going to leave your left leg in front of you. Go ahead and take your right ankle, or your right ankle. If you can, you'll bring it to the inside of the foot. But if it's possible, take your ankle onto your knee, and then you're going to hold onto your leg, or I'll hold on this way and come forward. I want to come forward with the heart. If you flex this foot, it's going to help to protect this knee quite a bit. One more full round of breath. Lean back a little bit, come back off of it. You're now going to tilt this leg so that the knee faces up, and that's either going to bring you with the foot crossed over or not with the foot crossed over. So you can choose in between. You're going to hug onto this knee to help keep your heart lifted up close to it. We'll take the right hand back behind you, nice and close to your hips to keep your heart lifted up. Lift from the backs of your ears, and then soften the belly as you twist over towards the right side, pulling this thigh in so that you get this nice deep, deep, deep outer hip release. Big breath in. Big breath out. And releasing that twist. Now you're going to take this foot. You're either going to come, maybe now you can take the ankle over the knee. You can come back to that. You can come back to this. You could take both legs out in front if you need to unbend this knee. But if you can, try to slide the foot over to the other side. So I'm on the pinky toe edge of the foot. I'm going to try to wiggle my legs a little bit closer. I do want this foot to be up a little bit close to the hip, but you do what you can with it. And then you're either going to hold onto your knee or fingertips at the floor. There's probably going to be a lot of left hamstring work here if your spine is long. So if you want to relax in a little bit, that might feel a little bit better in your hammy. I think I feel it both ways though. One more round of breath. And then take yourself on up. You're going to take the top leg and unwind it. And then the other leg will come up, and you're either going to have it bent open to the side or bringing your ankle up on top of your knee, and you want to keep this foot flexed. Both of my feet want to flex because it just seems easier to do both. And then it will take the heart forward towards that shin. Breathing softness into any points of tension. Big breath in. Big breath out. Starting to come back up. You're going to tilt the knee up so the foot comes on the floor either on this side or on this side of the leg. Hug into it, bring that left arm in nice and close. Lift from the skeleton, from the spine, and then soften in the belly as you twist. You're pulling this knee just gently over so that this outer hip point releases. Inhaling, exhaling, releasing the shape. And then you'll come to either of the two variations we just had, or going a little bit further by tucking the foot up by your hip. There's a little wiggle I often have to do to get the thighs a little bit closer here. The foot can be farther away from your hip if that's better for your knee, or you can try bringing it in. You can take a moment to experiment with that a little bit, and then we'll come forward. The longer your spine is, the more hamstring work you're going to be getting. So if you want to soften your spine a little bit, it might feel better. Neither is really wrong. The way that hurts is wrong. One more full round of breath. Start to come on up. I'm going to unwind this leg. And then I want you to come into a place where you're not worried about your seat, about the way that you're sitting. There's many things you can do about this. Go up and sit on a chair or the couch or something. You can fold your legs underneath you. For easy seat or crisscross applesauce, you can grab a pillow. For me, a really easy way to, especially after all of that hip work, just to be a little bit more balanced, is to kind of sit back on the feet, or you can sit back on a cushion. So do something to find a place where you don't really have to worry about sitting up. But here's the thing, you can't have the wall behind you, because we're going to do a little bit of hand work in the back. And if you can grab and do this bind, that's fine. I'm going to teach it with not having the bind, because the bind's useful, but it's not like really what we're doing here. Like, it's not that necessary. So we'll take cow face, and I'll go ahead and face this way so you can see me a little bit better. Okay, good. So pick an arm, any arm. You're gonna reach it up. And then we take the hand slightly in front of your face, and the inside of the shoulder, just go ahead and soften it down, which might even have taken the arm back a little bit. So this inside is softened, then you're gonna bend the arm and take it back. It's either gonna go behind your upper back here, maybe it goes behind your head, yeah? But you wanna keep this inner shoulder softened. Now you're gonna take the other hand, you're gonna take it down, have the palm facing behind you. And you're gonna reach the collarbone back, okay? And then you're gonna slide the hand into your lower back, or your mid back, or your upper back. So I've got my hands open here. If you can grab them, you're welcome to grab them, but there's a little bit like a subtle opening that will happen a little bit more deeply if the hands are open, softening that top inner shoulder, resting that bottom arm collarbone. And you also want to think of that bottom elbow reaching down, the top elbow reaching up. One more thing. Can you soften your body into your back space? So kind of take a little bit of the back bend out of it, lengthening the spine a little bit more perhaps. One more breath in. One more breath out. You're going to slide that bottom hand down, release the top arm. You can swing your arms back and forth a little bit. You might do that. And then we'll find the same thing on the other side. So the other hand comes up, it's going to be just slightly in front of your face, and then this inside shoulder point is going to soften. With that inside shoulder softened, take the hand behind your head. The palm faces either into the back of your neck or the back of your head, and you get to choose which one, letting that inner shoulder continue releasing. Your other hand is going to come out, palm facing down. Your collarbone is going to open it back, and then the hand's going to slide up at the base of your spine, the middle of it, or up taller, maybe into the back of your heart. And then there's this tendency, once you get up there, that the shoulder kind of dips forward, yeah? So I want to release that elbow down, and I might have to remove my hand lower in order to do that. And the elbows reach apart. There's a tendency when the elbows reach apart to take this back bend in, but that will often create some pinching in the low back. Can you reach the elbows apart with a long lower and mid back? You can even rest your head back into your arm or your hand. And then from the front, it looks like I got some fancy business going on, and I'm not even binding. And you really don't need to bind. You don't need to have exactly the execution that anybody else does to do this like really cool arm sculpture. One more exhale. And the bottom arm will slide down, the top arm will come up. Just give a little swing. If you're sitting lower, you might need to kind of swing your arms out this way. Okay. And we're going to start working it down onto our backs. So we will meet there. And slide yourself on down, like really close to the wall. Okay. All right. And so go ahead and come to constructive rest. So your feet are a little bit wider, your knees come together. You're going to take your arms up. Okay. Now you can wrap up for eagle arms. That's a good one. Or take your hands crossed one wrist over the other. Your palms are facing away from each other. I want you to turn your hands so they face towards each other, and you can press on your hands. If that was super confusing or you just really want to do eagle arms instead, you just do eagle arms. It's just cross, flip, press. One more exhale. Release your shoulders. You're going to cross your arms the other way, so it'll be other way eagle arms, or cross the other hand on top, flip your palms, press them. Breath in. Big breath out. And you're going to take your arms, excuse me, up above your head. You're going to reach them out or wider, or hold on to opposing elbows. If you're holding those elbows, you're reaching them away from your head and softening the inner shoulders as much as you are able to do. Your feet are already wider than your hips. You'll leave them there. You'll leave the legs separate. Drop the knees over towards one side. Flex your feet and reach that top knee that's hovering in the air out and away from you. And not down, but out. Relaxing that inner shoulder space. Feeling that outer armpit and tricep space extending. Take breath in. Breathing out. Relaxing your shoulders a bit as you take the transition up and over towards the other side. Flexing your feet, softening the inner shoulders, reaching that top knee out and away from you, and also reaching the elbows out and away from the head. Big breath in. Big breath out. And then releasing the arms as you take the knees back up. Go ahead and open your arms out wide. Roll the knees over towards the right. Maybe tuck them up a little bit closer towards you. Just coming into whatever your good version of a twist is. Letting your left shoulder and your belly become softer. One more exhale. And then coming over to the other side. When you get there, finding that good twist, relaxing your belly and your right shoulder. One more breath. And working your way back to the center. Maybe letting those knees rest against each other again. If there are ever any additional movements you need, please go there. But if you are ready to find your final rest, we'll start to move into that space, taking whatever adjustments you need, whatever variation of this time that you need. Enjoy. start to come back to your breath. Allowing yourself to maybe get a little bit creative and intuitive about the way that you move and shift, gently waking yourself up into wild. Coming when you're ready over to one side, curling inwards in a moment of gratitude for your practice. Working your way up into your own version of a comfortable seat. Acknowledging this practice and any sorts of our movement and our efforts to be creative and inquisitive, knowing whether we realize it or not, any making of art is a spiritual encounter, as it is our attempts to grow beyond ourselves that energize the soul of the universe. And seal practice, releasing an Om. Big breath in. Bowing down to the love and light that resides within each of our hearts. Namaste. Have fabulous days, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Glad you popped in, Melinda. Thanks.
Have a good day.
Bye, everybody. Take care. Have a good week.
Thanks, Tootsie Wootsie. That was good.
Awesome. Take care.
Stay out of trouble. Toodles.
Bye.